Hi everybody, welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. My name is Matt Bernier, and here's what's on tap for this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Mike Beer and I will handicap some of the biggest races this upcoming weekend, including the Queen's Plate from Woodbine, the Grade 1 United Nations from Monmouth Park, as well as the Grade 2 Mother Goose at Belmont Park. Nicole Russo will have her pedigree pick. She'll focus in on some of the top freshman sires thus far. Jonathan Kinchin, a change in the segment name. JK's play of the day. He's going to focus in on a cold pick 3 at Gulfstream Park this weekend with the Summit of Speed happening. Timeform US Spotlight play from Craig Milkowski. He'll focus in on the Queen's Plate. And Mike and I will give you our best bets of the weekend. Without further ado, let's get going. Horses to watch here on Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate this week with our Horse Watch segment. This is maybe something for all of you to keep in the back of your mind. Maybe this is a horse that has had some trouble, or maybe bigger and better things are on the horizon. Mike, you're going to stick right to your New York circuit. You're going to stay at Belmont, and you've got a horse called Browse.
Yeah, Browse made her turf debut for Shug McGahee last week. This is a filly. She's pretty good on dirt. She was always pretty good on dirt. Stakes place for Shug, had some speed, but it just felt like it wasn't getting any better for her on the dirt. So Shug switches her over to turf. She's a half-sister to Shug's Grade 1 turf winner, Imagining, so you figure the surface switch will work. And I'm not so sure, it's hard to tell if it worked or not, Matt. That's the real problem with this race. Here's the replay of it. For some reason, Joe Mazzaro took her back to last. You can't even see her, Matt. She couldn't get outside. She's buried in traffic all through the stretch. There was no pace going on in this race. They absolutely walked on the lead. And just look at poor Browse. Rosario trying to find somewhere for her to run. And she is trying here. I think she's running on at the end of this race into traffic again there. She just can't get anywhere to run, only beaten about 2 3/4 lengths when all is said and done. If nothing else, she deserves one more chance on the grass for Shug, and I will give her one more.
And the good thing is, on the heels of a trip like that, you're still probably going to get a good number, one to throw in your horse watch for certain over on drf.com in the handicapping section. I'm going to go north of the border to Woodbine. We're going to talk a lot about Woodbine here in this show coming up, obviously with the Queen's Plate ahead of us, but there's a horse called Mill Road that maybe you want to throw in your horse watch. We're going to take a look at his maiden score most recently. This is a 3-year-old gelding for Catherine Day Phillips, does tremendous job up at Woodbine, and right now it looks like he's going to win by a length or two. But boy, he hits the 8th pole and he extends, and this for me was a pretty impressive debut score. I shouldn't say debut, maiden breaking score. This is his second lifetime start. He earns a 93 buyer here. He's geared down at the end. He galloped out well. This race is at 6.5 furlongs. I don't know that we're dealing with any sort of Eclipse winner or Sovereign winner or whatever it may be, but this is a horse that looks like he has some serious potential. Always have to be a little bit wary about horses that go out there and do that all on the front end with a relatively cushy trip, but he at least has given off the impression that maybe there's some bigger and better things here to come from Mill Road, 3-year-old gelding by Quality Road. Speaking of Woodbine, let's kick off the handicapping section with the Queen's Plate coming up on Sunday. We begin the handicapping segment of Out of the Gate this week with the Sunday Formulator race of the day. It is the Queen's Plate, $1 million. The purse for 3-year-olds going 1.25 miles up at Woodbine. And as we take a look at the field, you can head on over to the race of the day page and get your free Formulator past performances there. And you can also go over to video.drf.com for all of the extended and expanded stakes previews. Mike, the morning line favorite is the 3 Holy Helena in here. She won the Woodbine Oaks for Jimmy Jerkins. She's 3-1 in the morning line. She's very impressive. She's lightly raced, but does she deserve to be such an overwhelming favorite in a wide open race?
Yeah, I don't know that I would want her at any kind of really short price. Certainly I don't think I'd want her as the favorite in this race, but I could probably say that about anyone in this field. Whoever the favorite is, I'm not so sure that I would want them in what I thought handicapped as a wide open race. I have no real problem with Holy Helena. I mean, she's run well in all 3 of her starts, including that synthetic debut last time in the Woodbine Oaks. She got a nice trip in that race, and you can see her here. She's sitting right in behind the leaders here as they turn into the stretch. She will move clear, and I mean, she's just way better than these horses.
She gets out into the clear, and she puts the field away. Another horse to keep an eye on is in the white and red silks of Klarovich stable. That's in the back in flexibility. She got shuffled a little bit on the far turn, but no match for the winner, Holy Helena. She comes into this, the Queen's Plate, now as a very likely favorite. I would just wonder how much money she's going to take, and as you had said, this is a pretty wide open group. You don't want to take anything too short. You're interested in a horse, though, the absolute lightly raced horse in this field, one that's only gone out one time. That's Aurora Way.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him as far as price goes. I was sort of hoping maybe he'd get a little lost in the shuffle. He's only got the one start behind him in a field where others obviously have some more accomplishments behind them. But he was really impressive first time out, so we'll see what kind of price you can actually get on him. He's got to step up in class. He's got to stretch out. He's got to face some much better horses here, but this horse was really impressive in his debut, and we have the replay of that. He sat off the pace on the outside the entire way. They asked him to go through the second turn. He just ran by horses through the turn, and here he is. He just takes it over at the top of the stretch, Matt. I love the way he finished this race off. Obviously, again, this is going to be way tougher to step right into the Queen's Plate, but he's the horse I wanted going forward in this race, and I'm just hoping he can, show up here on Sunday and give a good account of himself.
From a class standpoint, sure, he's going to get a bit of an acid test, but boy, from a fig standpoint, he's right there with the main contenders in this spot, and it looks like additional distance is only going to be his friend. You get Julian Leparoux up in this spot with Aurora Way. I'm going to go with Tiz Slam. This is a horse that is coming in on a couple of losses at this point into the Queen's Plate. But I think maybe, look, it's debatable. Maybe he hasn't trained on from 2 to 3, or maybe he just has been a little bit unlucky. His most recent start we're going to take a look at now, he was in behind horses, and unfortunately, I think the shuffle, he's all the way in the back right now. You're going to see him in the spot shadow momentarily. He just kind of wasn't allowed to run on at the same time everyone else was, particularly Guy Caballero, who ends up getting a little bit of a trip in here. And you see King in his court, and you see State of Honor, the other Cassie horse in here. They're out there on the front end. Tiz Slam's going to come on a little bit at the end. Too little, too late, but it does make me think, if he got the trip that Guy Caballero got, maybe he's the one that ultimately wins this race, and he comes into the Queen's Plate as a little bit more fancied of a choice in here. So Mike and I both going to take a shot against Holy Helena, acknowledging that she is one of the horses to beat in here, though. Mike will go with Aurora Way. I will go with Tiz Slam in the Queen's Plate. Let's throw it over to Nicole Russo with her pedigree pick this week, focusing in on some freshman sires.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky for Out of the Gate. We're going to take a few minutes this week to look at another of this year's freshman sires, Jimmy Creed, who has come out swinging. Let's take a look here at freshman sires by winners currently. You see the Spencer Farm Stallion leads by individual winners with 4. 3 others tied at 3, including Overanalyze, who is the current earnings leader, and Justin Phillip, who's really heating up. Jimmy Creed not only leads by winners, but has the fewest starters of any of these. That tells me his foals really have class. It's not just a law of averages here. One of his recent winners who turned some heads, Spectator, won on debut at Santa Anita for Phil D'Amato. You're watching her power clear in the stretch en route to a 5 1/4 length win. Jimmy Creed, also the sire of Admiral Jimmy, who was 3rd in the Tremont Stakes at Belmont earlier in June. Now, I'm not sure how far these horses are going to want to go as we get into the fall. Jimmy Creed's family is full of speed, as we'll discuss in a moment, but they're certainly talented. Look for them to be a factor in some of these early stakes at the big summer meets at Del Mar and Saratoga, and of course the good maiden races at those tracks. Jimmy Creed himself didn't run as a 2-year-old. He debuted in May of his 3-year-old year, but did have a ton of speed. His biggest win came in the Grade 1 Malibu Stakes at 7 furlongs. He finished about 3/5 off the track record. He defeated Private Zone, who of course you know is a multiple Grade 1 winner. The field also included Unbridled's Note, Drill, Fed Biz, the Lumber Guy, all those names showing you the class that Jimmy Creed had. The son of distorted humor only missed the board twice in his career. He's out of Grade 1 winner Hooked on the Feelin', making him a half-brother to Grade 1 winner Pussycat Doll. It's the immediate family of Grade 1 winner Midnight Lucky. Just a ton of class, a ton of speed backing up this young stallion. Thanks for tuning in this week for some of these Bloodstock notes. We'll be back with more Out of the Gate after these messages.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time newsfeed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate as we get back into the handicapping portions of the program. Let's take a look at the Saturday formulator race of the day. It's the Grade 1 United Nations from Monmouth Park. As we take a look at the field, again, head over to the Race of the Day page to get your free formulator past performances. To get all the nuts and bolts handicapping, head over to video.drf.com. Mike, the inside two horses seem like they are the horses to beat. The one, Beach Patrol. The two, It's in the Post. Let's start off with Beach Patrol. His most recent run in the Manhattan, it wasn't bad, but he's still just finding one or two or three better.
Yeah, that's been his real problem so far in his most recent race. Ever since he won that Grade 1 Secretariat last year as a 3-year-old, he's just had a tough time picking up another win, but he keeps showing up and running really well. This is his most recent start. This is 3 straight 102 Beyer speed figures since he's come back as a 4-year-old, and he runs fine here, Matt. I mean, he's really trying through the stretch and behind horses, just sort of getting out finished at the end. I don't know. I just thought it was another good effort for a horse who's just, really struggling to find the winner's circle. He's way the horse to beat in here, though. He's got the speed. He should be on the lead early in here, and he's just a really, really tough horse.
And it helps from a pace standpoint. He figures to be forwardly placed in a race that seems to lack any sort of true confirmed front runners, maybe with the exception of the two. It's in the Post coming in from the West Coast. What do you do with his most recent start in the Whittingham? Because prior to that, he was in good form.
Yeah, I didn't love his most recent race. That's a little bit of a problem for me. I'm not really sure how to excuse it. He just didn't, run his best race. If you can get back to something like the race that he ran 2 starts back in the Elkhorn, I think he's a huge player in this race. I do expect him to be forwardly placed in here. I don't see any reason why he couldn't bounce back. And you know what? It just feels like one of these races where if they go way overboard on Beach Patrol and the wagering here, you might actually get It's in the Post at a fair price.
You and I both think Beach Patrol and It's in the Post, they are the two most likely winners of this race, but we want to shop around a little bit. Graham Motion enters 2 in this spot. We like Can't Help Believing.
Yeah, Can't Help Believing. We both sort of landed on the same horse here. I still think he's going to be an okay price in this race, though. And I feel like at least part of the reason that we like him has to do with his most recent start here at Monmouth Park, where they cut him all the way back to a mile, which seems a little short for him. But this is just a race that had no pace development at all. They walked down the front end. This is a horse who was trying to close ground. You can just see he's racing on all through the stretch here, but this pace is just not coming back for him. He just had no chance in this race, Matt.
He had no chance, and I also think there's some other things too. The distance at a mile, to me, that feels way too short for a horse like this who's really excelled at longer distances. And we talked about it a little bit in the stakes preview, that this is a horse that it seems like he's done his absolute best. It's not that he can't run on ground that's less than firm, but it seems like he does his absolute best on really, really firm going. It seems like we're going to get that Saturday afternoon down at Monmouth Park. So Mike and I both going to go with Can't Help Believing. Hopefully he's a little bit of a price in the Grade 1 United Nations. Now let's go up the road and take a look at the Mother Goose at Belmont. Featured event at Belmont Park Saturday afternoon is the Grade 2 Mother Goose for 3-year-old fillies. Let's take a look at the field. They're going a mile and a 16th on the main track. Mike, you've got a couple of fillies exiting the Kentucky Oaks. You've got a couple exiting the Black-Eyed Susan, and you've got some fresh faces that look like they're the ones with upside.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't personally, when I went through this race, didn't really feel like I needed the 2 horses exiting the Oaks. I didn't feel like I really needed the horses exiting the Black-Eyed Susan either. I wanted the fresh faces in this race. And I think there are a couple of very interesting ones. Unchained Melody, I have no problem with it too. She looks like the speed of the race for Brian Lynch, and she ran well with a 90 Beyer speed figure last time. Maybe she's the horse to beat in here, but I think there are a lot of different ways to go in here.
You mentioned Unchained Melody for Brian Lynch. This is a horse that figures to be forward in a race that lacks a ton of early speed, but one of the likely race horses that you're more interested in is one of the 3 coming out for Todd Pletcher, and that's My Miss Tappet.
Yeah, I wonder if this My Miss Tappet might not be one of Pletcher's better 3-year-old fillies as the year goes on here. We'll see what happens. She's got a lot to prove as she steps up in class and out in distance for the Mother Goose here, but she's 2 for 2 to start her career, and I think she ran really, really well both times. She won her debut sprinting at 5 furlongs. Did not look like a horse who wanted any part of 5 furlongs, but she leveled off with a nice run and won that race easily. And I like her winning a little bit of a restricted stakes race last time. She came after Actress, the horse who eventually won the Black-Eyed Susan, took her on early, dueled her down through the stretch, was an easy winner once again. I think this is a good horse, Matt.
So far, she hasn't done anything wrong. And like you said, she's going to get a little bit of an acid test here, but it is nice to see that the horse that she defeated soundly and beat her on the square, Actress, came back to win the Black-Eyed Susan. Speaking of the Black-Eyed Susan, that's where I went. I also went with Pletcher. I'm going with John Velasquez and Moana. I just kind of feel like she was the one that was closest to the pace in the Black-Eyed Susan, which featured a pace that absolutely disintegrated. That, you know what, she stayed on relatively well. And okay, maybe it's not the sexiest of stretch drives as you see her right now under an all-out drive, just kind of up and down. But when you consider all the other horses that were toward the front end, finished way up the track, and all the horses that made these big moves, including Lights of Medina, who's the third of the Pletcher runners in this spot here in the Mother Goose, I thought all things considered it wasn't a bad effort. Her debut, or I should say her maiden score 2 back at Keeneland, gave off the impression, to me anyway, that additional distance is really what she's going to want. So I wonder if she is sort of similar to what you were saying with Pletcher with My Mistap. And maybe she's a little bit of a later developing filly, and maybe we won't see their best until they do get up to Saratoga. But Mike and I both going to go with a couple of Pletcher entrants in the Mother Goose. Neither one of them, Lights of Medina, the runner-up in the Black-Eyed Susan. Jonathan Kinchin has renamed his segment. It's going to be JK's play of the day. He's focused on an ice-cold pick 3 down at Gulfstream Park on Saturday with the Summit of Speed. And then Craig Milkowski has the Timeform US Spotlight play as focused on the Queen's Plate. Let's throw it to Kinchin's play.
Hey everybody, welcome to the JK play of the day. Got a new name this week, so don't be thrown off. Same results, hopefully, maybe even a little bit better. We're going to do an ice-cold pick 3 down at Gulfstream Park for the Summit of Speed. We're going to start in race 11. It's the grade 3 carryback for 3-year-olds. A few weeks back at the Preakness, I was against this horse cutting back. I didn't really like the cut back to 6 furlongs. When you're dealing with these 3-year-olds that they're trying to stretch out to longer distances to lead up to the Kentucky Derby, mile and an 1/8, mile and a 16th. And in the mornings, they're really trying to teach these speedy horses to kind of slow down a little bit. And so I thought that cutting back to 6 furlongs for this horse, 3 rules, was going to be a little bit tricky. At Pimlico in the stake on Preakness weekend. Now he's going to get back to his home track. He's cutting back now, actually stretching out now to 7 furlongs. And I think that's going to hit him right between the eyes. I think he's better than the rest of these horses. And I'm going to use 3 rules, the 3 horse, as a single in the first leg of my pick 3. Moving on to the grade 2 Princess Rooney, another horse here that I'm going to single, a horse I've been chasing for a while since last summer at Saratoga, and that's Lightstream. Gets Javier Castellano. Lightstream ran pretty well in the slop in the Humana Distaff down at Churchill Downs Derby weekend. Was wide on an inside speed favoring track. Came back and ran really well at Belmont. And the problem there was that horse was closing into a slow pace, really didn't have any position throughout that entire race, was kind of hung 3 and 4 wide the entire time, still was making up ground on horses late in that race. And I think this spot is going to hit Lightstream right where she needs to be. A little class relief, facing probably a little bit less than she's been facing in her last 2 races. And I think she'll run well here for Javier Castellano. So Lightstream will be my single in the second leg of my pick 3 in the grade 2 Princess Rooney. And then going on to the grade 3 Smile Stakes. Look, this horse was on to something special last year before obviously he had an issue, and that's Imperial Hint. If you look at the Timeform US figures for Imperial Hint, they kind of lay over this field. I'm going to come back to back here with Javier Castellano. I just think that this horse is better than these. Fast on a speed favoring track at Gulfstream, going 6, should get position. The only concern really is the layoff. Unfortunately, the horse has been working at Parks, so we're not going to have any information on the DRF Clocker report for how he's doing. Maybe do a little Twitter search and see what you can come up with. But I've got faith in this horse's abilities to run well in this spot, and I think that it'll help with my ice cold pick 3 that I'm going to try to hit here at Gulfstream. You know, if you like something else, toss it in for a little bit and maybe make it a 1x1x2 or a 2x1x1. But I'm letting you know that's how I'm going to play it on Saturday. Good luck. We'll see you next week.
Hi, this is Craig Milkowski of Timeform US for Out of the Gate. This week we're going to look at the Queen's Plate at Woodbine to be run on Sunday. It's a $1 million race for 3-year-olds, and as you can see from our preview page, the race rating is a 109. If you want to see the full conditions of the race, you just click on that in our past performances, and it brings up everything in text. I like to use the 109 as kind of a guidepost to what it's going to take to win this race as far as speed figures go, and that's what I did here. Quick look at the pace projector shows we don't expect any extreme pace, not too fast or not too slow, but we do show that 3 horses, the 8, 9, and 10, are all adding blinkers. And while we do build that into the Timeform US pace projector and kind of move the horses up, it still can be a little tricky. We show State of Honor as a predicted leader, which isn't really a surprise. He led the Kentucky Derby early. He's also led the Sam Davis and the Tampa Derby, as well as most recently the Plate Trial. So I do expect him to be the leader. What I don't think is going to happen is he's going to be clear like we show. For $1 million in a big field, that rarely happens, and I expect him to have a little more pace pressure up front than we show. The morning line favorite is actually a filly in here, and that's Holy Helena. She's won both her route races, but the one thing I don't like, her speed figure's a little bit low. She only ran a 104 last time out when she won the Woodbine Oaks over this same surface. It's a little light compared to some others in here, so I'm going to look at her as a vulnerable favorite. The second choice is Channel Maker. He last ran also at Woodbine in the Grade 3 Marine. He ran a good 106 in his over the poly track after some turf efforts. I expect him to be a competitor here, to be a strong factor in the lane, but he is 4-1 in a big field. So I'm going to look a little bit elsewhere for who I'm going to wager on. That's probably going to be Guy Caballero. He's listed at 10-1 morning line. I'd be more than happy with anything close to that. He won the Plate Trial with a 109 last time out. And what I really like is his development. He ran 4 times as a 2-year-old, and he improved his Timeform US speed figure each time on the track. He took off after that from December to May. And he came back with what looks like a slow effort in a 93, but you can see by the blue fractions, the pace was very slow that day. It was a sprint race, and he was still able to rally from near the back to get second. He then exploded in the Plate Trial with that 109, and I think he's sitting on a big effort here, 3rd time off the layoff. A quick note about the speed figures for a couple of those races. You can see the Plate Trial and the Woodbine Oaks. The Plate Trial actually came back quite a bit slower, more than a full second slower than the Woodbine Oaks, but I have it rated as a faster race. The reason is I think the track was significantly faster for those last 2 races on the Tapeta surface that day at Woodbine. Some of the horses have run back from the last race and have tended to back that up, and that's one of the big reasons I'm against Holy Helena. I think she's going to be a bit overrated. One other horse I want to mention that's just a bit of a long shot is Malibu Secret. He's another that has a nice pattern of development. He's improved his speed figure each time out. First time routing last time in that same Grade 3 Marine we mentioned for Channel Maker. He ran 3rd behind him, but a good 3rd, and I expect him to improve a little bit, to improve quite a bit this time. Also 3rd off of long layoff. And I just think he's a big factor in your tries and your supers, and I know he'll be on my tickets. That's it for Timeform US. Now back to the studio to talk about our best bets for the weekend.
Best bet time here on Out of the Gate. Mike, you're the NYRA handicapper for the Daily Racing Form. You're going to go to Belmont Park.
Make it easy on myself and stay at Belmont Park Saturday. Race number 4, Deuces High is number 3 for Rick Violet Jr. Off a little bit of a layoff here. We haven't seen him since January. If you start looking at his form, 6 career starts, 2 wins. He's got a little bit of an on-off pattern going on. 1 good one, 1 bad one. But I think there are ways to excuse the bad ones. In particular, his most recent start. The last time we saw him, brutal 4-wide trip on a gold rail day. This is his win 2 starts back. The last time that he won, this is a 1-turn mile at Aqueduct. I'm hoping he gets this kind of a trip in this race, Matt. He sat right up on the pace the entire way. There's not that much speed in this field on Saturday. He can sit up close and take this race over in the stretch. Only 6 career starts so far, and he's got all the upside in this field too. I'm hoping he gets the right trip and he can run his best race off the layoff, because this is a field that this horse can beat.
Well, I'm hopeful that Deuces High can cash so I can take some of that money from Saturday and roll it on into my best bet on Sunday. Everybody's focused on the Queen's Plate up at Woodbine, understandable, but the entire card at Woodbine on Sunday is really, really strong. Race number 4 is what I'm going to key in on. It's the Highlander going 6 furlongs on the turf, and I'm going to go to Commute. I believe Illman made this his best bet a few weeks ago, and unfortunately for him, in the Connaught Cup, which we're going to take a look at right now, he just found that 7/8 of a mile to be a little bit too much. Commute did, but he was a square number that day, and he ran a big race. He figures to get a really nice setup in this spot here in the Highlander as well. Consider he's going to be turning back to 3/4 of a mile, and there's a couple of familiar faces. He's going to have to deal with Calgary Cat, who's the horse flashing home on the outside. Tower of Texas, luckily, is going to go on later on in the day at a longer distance. But the other thing to keep in mind, Green Mask is going to be in this race on the heels of a 109 buyer when he ran so big in the Jaipur on Belmont Stakes Day. I think he's going to take money. You've got horses like No Holding Back Bear that are going to take money. I think Commute might slip through the cracks at a better distance at 6 furlongs. He's 8-1 in the morning line. I don't think you get 8, but maybe you get somewhere in the 5 to 6 range. So hopefully Deuces High can roll me right in to Sunday, and maybe we can cash with Commute in the Highlander up at Woodbine. Thanks to all of you that watched this episode of Out of the Gate, and best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.